Welcome to Lesson 7, Methods, a Deeper Look. As the name implies, we're going to talk about more features of method declarations here in Lesson 7. And actually, you've been using this concept of a static method a little bit all the way from the very first console application you created back in Lesson 3. The main method is special, and that's part of what we're going to discuss in this lesson. It's declared static for a reason. It needs to be available to the runtime that's going to launch and execute your application before any objects ever get created in your programs. And that's one of the benefits of static methods. When you define static methods in a class, they are always available through the class name. And in fact, the runtime will use your class's name to access your class's main method to launch the application. So we'll talk a little bit about static methods in this lesson. We'll also take a look at a little bit of random number generation, which can be fun to do for things like simulations, for example. We'll talk about C#'s scope rules, where it is that a given variable name is accessible to you throughout a class's definition. We'll discuss the concept of so-called overloaded methods, where you have multiple methods in the same class and they have the exact same name. Now, those of you who are coming from the C programming language know that if you ever define two functions with the same name, you get a compilation error. In C#, and also in a lot of the other C-based object-oriented languages, you have this capability of method overloading, and it's actually desirable to have multiple methods that have the same name and different parameter lists so that you can do the same basic tasks, typically on different types of data or on different numbers of parameters. So we'll talk about the syntax of method overloading, and also show you an example of that. Next, we'll take a look at some C# specific features called optional and named parameters. An optional parameter, as its name implies, is not required when you call a given method. And the reason it's not required is because you provide in the declaration of the method some sort of default value that will be passed if the programmer calling your method does not pass a value. And then separately, named parameters are interesting in that you can actually change the order of the values that you're passing into a method if you explicitly name the parameter that a given argument will be assigned to. I'm going to show you that feature because it exists, but it's not one that I typically use in my own C# development. Next, we'll take a look at a concept called recursion, which is where a method calls itself. And the main reason we have that in this lesson is to support some later lessons where we use recursive methods. If in fact you don't want to study that yet, you can skip it for now and then return to this piece of the lesson when you get to, for example, some of our data structure manipulations in the collections lesson of one of the later parts of these C# live lessons videos. And finally, at the end of this lesson, we're going to take a look at the concepts of passing method arguments by value and by reference. C# has some key differences from other programming languages with respect to this concept, so I highly recommend you take a look at that particular video. As you're working your way through this lesson, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me. And generally, the best ways to reach me are through my email address, which you see on the screen, or through our company Facebook and Google Plus pages.